And the nice thing,
I'll start by showing you my cool French press that I've got ready to
I've
student.
got that same one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I've got a I like well here let me introduce you and then we could go through the coffee thing. So all right, so I'm excited because it's French Press Friday, and I'm here with a friend of mine. Before we get into that, I just want to just ask people to take a second and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter as well. All the links are down in the description below. I found that like about 80 to 90% of people that watch the videos are not subscribers. Subscribing really helps out. So if you can please do that. But enough with that stuff. We're going to go to my guest is Josh McGowan, who is literally like a block away from me right now, even though it looks like he's at Orchestra Hall. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. You got a great green screen effect going on for us there.
Yeah, I should even just show you that. So my computer's kind of old, and it's not able to do the Zoom background like the virtual one, and I'm in my basement because I'm teaching at home, and so behind me I bought a green screen so I can actually like change the background myself, and so for the past couple weeks now since I've gotten this, we started out in the lobby of Orchestra Hall, and then we made our way into the actual like uh the actual stage,
Extra
and so
stage, yeah.
it's kind of fun to be able to change my background up. Otherwise, it'd just be like a boring basement wall back here. So I know it
Yeah.
doesn't look perfect, but I put a little bit of blur on the photos too to make it look like it's actually behind me rather than a really like perfect looking picture behind me. So
The words Orchestra Hall directly behind you kind of give it away.
I know, well, yeah, I made this on.
Oh,
It looks like
okay.
my lighting's not perfect, but yeah, I made that so I could step out of the way and show students.
I think that's great. You could probably show them places like Carnegie Hall then, and all
Mhm.
kinds of great. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I was thinking
Um,
it'd be kind of fun to go around and show like places that I've performed, just to kind of put a little personal touch to it. Like, I actually haven't performed at Orchestra Hall, but it was just the first thing that came to mind. But I mean, I went on an international tour with the Concordia Band to China, and we played in some pretty amazing places there. And so I was going to show off that kind of thing, just to, I don't know, if it piques anyone's interest as far
yeah.
as like where you can take music and stuff like that. I thought it'd be kind of a fun way to do that.
Well, I have to admit, I actually have it's tea Friday for me. I didn't feel like a cup of coffee, so I'm not French pressing. But you are French pressing
I am French pressing. I've got
single
this.
cup.
It's probably gonna mess up with my virtual background, but I've got a yeah, a French press that I got from the Duluth Pack store
Yeah,
in
that's where I got
Duluth.
mine.
Yeah, nice. And so it's like it's just got a sleeve on it, and you can push the whole cup down inside, so it's got the
I
filter
always get
on it.
coffee everywhere when I do that, so I need to watch how you're doing it. What's the trick?
Super slow. I don't use it very much. I just knew that French Press Friday probably meant I should come ready with the French press.
Well, when we did French Press Friday, when everyone was here, we would do a whole pot. But if I make a whole pot of French press coffee, I generally drink a lot of it, and it's just not good for my jitters after school on a Friday. So,
Right.
it's funny. I didn't even say, hey, Josh is a band director here in Fergus Falls. We work very closely together. He is actually doing all of our distance stuff. So he's teaching everything from home. And we are here. A couple of other teachers are here in the school doing what we call the bricks and mortar teaching. I'm going to just jump into things, Josh, and ask you. You're teaching from home. What's been one of the difficult things doing that this year? What's been a struggle?
I know it's probably the same struggle that all of the in school people have, but having kids kind of come in and out and keeping track of who's distant now, who's in person, and knowing like who should I be seeing for lessons this week or for class this week has been, it's just hard to keep up with that kind of stuff. Um and then honestly it's a bit draining to not have that one-on-one contact with students, like actually face to face. It's just feels a little less personal when you're doing it through a Zoom screen. So I kind of crave that, getting back to being in a full group and seeing people's actually faces like one on one. So
Yeah, that's so funny because of my schedule this year. I haven't had that one-on-one lesson time with students, and I'm getting it now. Our circumstance at the high school, for anybody that's listening, is that we switched to hybrid in the high school, and that changed my schedule quite a bit. I'm sorry, not hybrid. We switched to distance learning. So now I'm able to do one-on-one lessons via Zoom, and that has been a big plus for me, to get back, because I haven't, like, I actually did not realize until Monday or Tuesday when I started doing this how much I really enjoy doing one-on-one lessons with students. The kind of interaction you get, and how deep you can dive into various technique things. So it's funny that for you, it's like that's kind of been the negative, and for me, I'm like, oh, I get to be one-on-one.
I should say it, like, I do really like doing the individual lessons, but it isn't quite the same as like playing together in person. So like I do think that the individual lessons are the most effective thing to be doing over Zoom.
Yeah.
Um, like when compared to trying to work with a full group where you can't like put up someone's music on the screen. And I use a music app. I actually have my iPad sitting here in front of me that I can like draw on the screen and show kids what I'm talking about as we go. And
What app are you using for that?
I use Fourscore,
Yeah.
and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I have an iPad with the Apple Pencil, and so I can just like write on my screen here, and the students can have their own music out. Otherwise, I just a lot of times will say I'll just have my music out, and I can write notes to you, and then at the end of the lesson, I just shoot that PDF off to them with the annotations and stuff like that, so they can keep track of what we had worked on that week. It's pretty slick.
Dang it, you're one up on me, because I on Tuesday, like I started out, it was a rough start. I mean, I was kind of getting things figured out, and then I'm like, oh, I can plug my iPad in. Did the same thing. I fired up Fourscore. It was great for communication. Instead of going, can you start 7 after this? It was circle it. You're going to start right here.
Yeah.
It changed those lessons so quick, and now I got to remember that export PDF option. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Yeah. It has been a little bit of a struggle when kids come in on their phones. The one, I don't get a great sound on Zoom with phones, and I can't find a workaround for that. If anybody out there knows a good workaround for that, please send it. But then the other thing is like trying for them to see the music. They won't read the music, but even just seeing where I'm starting, it's kind of a little bit small. So, but overall, yeah, Fourscore has been a great app for those purposes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this week. What's something positive this week you've encountered? Can you think of anything?
Well, this is our first week with the high school going distance learning, and with the full high school being distance learning. And so all these kids that I haven't seen for however many months now, 3 months, are kind of popping into my Zoom lesson schedule, and it's fun to catch up with them. I feel like I know it's probably what kids need is that connection, but I feel like I need it just as much as they do to like reconnect and catch up on how the year's been going and everything too. So I spend a good chunk at the beginning of the lesson just talking about how the year's going and how distance learning is going for them and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to be able to reconnect with everybody.
Yeah, same. What has your feeling been on like where students are at here in Fergus? Like are they doing okay right now, do you think?
As far as the students I've seen, yes, but I kind of suspect that the students that are signing up for lessons with me are maybe the students that in general are not are not needing that hand holding kind of to help them through everything. And so there may be the students that kind of thrive with this Zoom setting. And I even had a flute player today who I said, how's this going distance learning? She's like, great. So, I mean, a typical flute player is probably on top of every assignment coming in. So
Yeah.
for the kids that I'm seeing, it seems like they're doing all right. I think it did help to have that in-person time at the start of the year. And it also helps to kind of know that there's a end in sight to this. So
Yeah. I kind of had that same observation at the beginning of the week that like, I was like, oh, my lesson schedule's full. This is great. And then when I went to the grade book to put things in, I'm like, oh, it's all the kids, like you were saying, that like I kind of would expect that they got everything put together. And so I shared this with you, but one thing I'm just challenging myself with is I'm trying to send a personalized email to every kid, and just to engage. And it's really been productive so far. I mean, I've probably sent about 25, 30 emails, and I've gotten responses back from kids that had not engaged yet. So it's a little extra work, but it's also kind of fun for me to think of, like, I try to think of one thing that's very personal, like, hey, how's weightlifting been going now that you can't hit the gym or something like that. So,
Sure. Nice.
all right. So one of the reasons I really wanted to bring you in was I think that you're a super creative teacher, and you're in a setting that's really brand new to a lot of people. And I'm curious about some things that you've been doing in the virtual classroom to engage kids. And maybe we could talk about, is there any website in particular that you've been going to, or any apps you've been using in particular?
At the start of the year, I actually created my own website for each ensemble, and then I would each week update it. So it'd be like sixth grade week 1, sixth grade week 2, and they could go in and find the exact week that we were supposed to be working on that week. And we'd actually kind of work through the website during class, and then later on in the week when they had practice, like time to practice, they could just go to that website and pretty much go down and see everything that they're supposed to be working on. And for the most part, like, I could put everything on the screen or have Google Drive links that they could click and open up the stuff to work on. And so that worked real well for a while. But once the high schoolers went online just this week, it kind of, I think you actually, you and I sat down and we talked about different ways we could try a different rhythm thing or something like that with the class, or intervals or something like that. And it got me to, like, I've never really used Pear Deck before. And so I tried just kind of investigating Pear Deck. And the coolest thing about it is that you can basically just make a Google slideshow and then make it interactive. So let's say I just put a link to a Google Drive folder on a slide. When I'm projecting it, the kids also have it projected up on their screens, and so I can have like the Drive link on there, and they can actually click on the slideshow rather than like looking in the Zoom window like this, and then I have to like copy a Zoom link and copy a Drive link and put it in the chat, and then they have to click on that. They can just click right onto the slideshow, and it pops up with their music, and so that's been pretty slick using Pear Deck. And so I think I'm going to kind of switch all my stuff over to that and use that for a little while now, because it's a pretty amazing tool. Plus, you
Yeah.
can also you can use it for like we used it for rhythms last week, where I had a bunch of rhythms written up on a slide, and I'd play one, and then they can drag a little cursor or a dot around, and then I can on my separate monitor here I can see where everyone's at. And I can like say, oh, it's actually on the second line for those of you that haven't gotten to it yet. And then I'll play it again, and I see a few more dots kind of converging on that one measure. And I can take my cursor and hover it over different people and see who's not on the dot yet. And I try not to call people out in class unless I know they can take a joke or take a little bit of heat from me. But the cool thing is just having that formative assessment that I can see right away. Oh, yep, they're getting it, or no, that's not making sense. So
Yeah.
Pear Deck is really cool, and I'm kind of jealous of teachers that have been using it for years, because it's such a cool tool that, like, now that we're one-to-one with all our Chromebooks and everything, I think if we can get other teachers in the school using it, I think it's a really good tool for student engagement.
Yeah. And then the benefit too of it is you can send the presentation out for self-navigation. So if a kid either misses the lesson, or you just want to like give them access to the information afterwards, and they could self-navigate through the slideshow too then.
Right. Yeah, and when we're live, like I just turned on a setting where it'll say at the beginning of class, before the kid even like starts the presentation, the first thing that'll pop up is like, how are you doing today? And you can click on like a smiley face or a frowny face or like different types of emojis, and that can be then at the end of class, or I could probably see it live. I haven't actually tested it yet, but at the end of class, I could go through and see if anyone looks like they're needing some attention, if I should reach out to any kids. So
Sure.
just having that ability to go back and see how kids were doing during class too is pretty cool.
Yeah, if you're already a Google Drive user and you use any slideshows, this is a really simple add-on. I agree too. I'm in one of my classes I teach that's not banned. I want to use more Pear Decks because I think it really is a great engagement tool. And then should we talk about Kahoot a little bit? Because a lot of people probably know about Kahoot. but I think there's a few, like one, it's a fun, like engaging trivia thing. You can also send it out to kids, either do it live or have them do it individually. Let's talk about how you used it with, was it intervals that you used it? No, it was rhythm identification.
Yeah, so I'll actually maybe show it on my screen here for you. I just made a folder called on Kahoot. You can uh, make little folders, and I made a folder called ear training, and I was planning to add more to it eventually here. But and this might be something that people are interested too. But right now, I'm just sharing via AirPlay on my MacBook, and then on my iPad, I'm clicking the screen mirroring, and it works pretty darn well to just show my iPad screen up on the Zoom window right here. So this is the Kahoot app, and it's nice. You can actually edit using the Kahoot app. You can also just use the website, but I made
Hey
this.
Josh, it might just be me. I'm actually not seeing it. Oh, there it is. It was hiding. It's up there.
Okay. So I made this thing just called rhythm recognition, where like each question has. It's kind of hard to see that way, isn't it? Whoops. Let me see what preview says.
Audio's pretty loud there.
I'm just gonna cancel that.
We can edit stuff up if we need to too.
Sure. Tell you what,
I can.
I'll just open this up and show people kind of what it does. So you can edit all this out.
So if you've never done this before, this is something that can be great to do like in class too. It doesn't have to just be virtually. I've done plenty of Kahoots with kids in the class. They have their devices and they log in.
Yeah, so each kid on their Chromebooks would open up Kahoot.it on a new tab, and it'll ask them for the game pin when they open it up, and then you punch it in quick, and it'll
And I
ask
won't
you
be
for
as
a
quick as
nickname.
you, but
And so I'm in there as McG, and then Scott, are you entering into?
I'm trying to. Boy, my phone is super slow. I think they must be messing with the internet here. So you can start, because I bet you I can. Can I get in after the fact?
You can, yep. And so when I click start here, it'll I've recorded a bunch of videos, and it'll play a rhythm, and then the kids have to click on their device which rhythm they think it is. And then it'll show like how many correct responses you got.
Yes.
And it's kind of nice. Then what you could do is like pause right there, and if it looked like a bunch of people got the wrong one, I can maybe go back and play the correct one, so they can, or play different ones to see what people like, in case people wanted to hear what other ones sound like. But then you just go to the next option, and it shows you like the faster you are at answering it, the more points you get. And so right there, you can see that I'm smarter than you. So it's pretty.
You might have
it's pretty
known
cool.
what was coming up too.
It took me a long time to make that, though, because you have to decide which rhythms you're going to play, then record them, and then go on to each slide and write out different rhythms, and then select the correct one. And so it is really time consuming, but once you get it set up, like, I mean, I could do the same thing but with harder rhythms. It's once you get the process down, I'm hoping to make more of them. I hope that it gets faster the more I do it. So
yeah, I think even just kind of opening that door for people that you can use Kahoot in this way as like a kind of an oral skills assessment, because you could probably find a lot of things on YouTube that are already exist. You could just, because if I remember right, on Kahoot you tell it where to start, right? You tell it what, yeah. So that's a really cool use of Kahoot. So way to go with that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else you wanna share with the world here?
We're using Flipgrid like crazy with the sixth graders are doing belt tests, so they're doing like band karate using Flipgrid. And so what happens is I just have like a song listed that they need to play from their Standard of Excellence book, and then and then they go in and perform it, and then I get the video. So if you haven't used Flipgrid before, it's just basically a place where kids can submit videos, and so I see the video, I can type back to them, or I can record a video response back to them, and you can set up a rubric. So I've set up a rubric for each of the belts that, in order to pass this belt, you need to make sure you're doing all these things. You have this right articulation and pitches and rhythm and all that kind of stuff. And then you can type in a little comment at the end and click the email button, and it sends the feedback right to them. And so we're not even grading the belt tests. It's just if they want to try and pursue their karate belts, it's kind of a fun thing. And I've got a lot of my online kids are participating in that. So it's
here's a kind of a
tool.
weird question for you. So if you don't have an answer to this, that's okay. But is there anything that you prefer about distance learning over like bricks and mortar? Is there anything that works better distance?
If a kid forgets their music, it's pretty easy to just plop the music up for them if I'm looking at it. But
Yeah.
um,
And maybe a better question is, what tools do you see dragging out of distance and into the classroom?
yeah, one thing that is nice about this is that when I start up a lesson, everyone's already warmed up. It's like if the lesson starts at 3 o'clock, they've already had their instrument out for 10 minutes, and I can go straight from one lesson right into the next one, and they're already ready to play. So that kind of thing is nice. I don't know how I would do that like next year if all the kids are still in school.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see using it for, like, if you were a private lesson instructor.
You're right.
I mean, just make the expectation that you're warmed up before you come in, and we can start playing right away when you get there. So
Yeah.
you can see a lot more gets done during a lesson where a kid has actually warmed up before coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's parts of Zoom that I think will stick around, like we're gonna zoom in professionals probably more than we did before. I think it kind of forced our district's hand a little bit to go one-to-one. So I think that's a huge thing, and finding out how to integrate that into our music curriculum will be a big deal. And I know we'll probably be relying on things like Pear Deck and Kahoot because like we're finding them pretty useful already. So
And I'll say that the Flipgrid is the same too. Like in the past, I've actually tried having kids upload videos to Google Classroom, but that can be a little clunky sometimes. And some kids, like, they record it on their phone, then they have to get it to Google Drive, then they have to get it to Google Classroom. Like, sometimes it's just a little bit too many steps, whereas Flipgrid is just click record, click done, and it's saved so I can see it already. So I could see using Flipgrid for any kind of performance assessment, or just sharing. Like, you can use it just as a sharing tool. Like, this is something we should actually do, is just have a Flipgrid that's open to anybody to come in, and they can record something and just show off what they've been working on. It doesn't have to be an assessment tool. It could just be a share what you want to play kind of thing.
yeah, I think I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about the rubrics because I'm a big rubric person, and setting those up in Flipgrid and possibly using those. And we're also going to be, maybe there's a chance that Flipgrid could have a place when we're talking about doing performances, virtual performances for our community. I'm not sure. We might be able to use Flipgrid for that too. So
Yeah.
anything, is there anything you're looking forward to in this next week? Anything particularly positive coming up? Come on, man. I sent you the questions late last night. You should be ready to go. While you're thinking about it, I'm going to say I worked with Josh. I've talked to him multiple times this week, and I kept on forgetting to ask him if he would be willing to sit down with me today. I think it was like 10:30 last night. I was like, oh yeah. And the thing that triggered it is I got an email. Next week I'm actually interviewing somebody from out of the state. I got in touch with an Indiana band director, and she responded to me, said she's interested in interviewing, and I was like, I don't have anybody for tomorrow. I forgot to ask Josh.
Am I just your fallback person?
No.
I was
But I knew I had a feeling even at 10:30. I'm like, I think he'll be up for it. So
Yeah. I don't know if you watch much Stephen Colbert, but I think Neil deGrasse Tyson is one of his fallback people because he's come on several times, and I guess he lives near, was it Rockefeller Center? Is that where they record it?
Yeah, I think that's
I
right.
guess he lives near there, and so like if someone doesn't come to their interview or whatever, they can call him up, and he's like almost always game for being on Colbert, and so he gives Steven a hard time sometimes for being like, I'm just your fallback guy, but
Well, you are my Neil deGrasse Tyson to
man, that's a
my
compliment right
Stephen
there.
Colbert.
You know, next week, I like I said, it was the first week that we used Pear Deck, and I have put in more things into it for this coming week, and so I guess I am excited to just mess with that some more. My weeks pretty much have looked the same though. Like I enjoy what I'm doing right now, just doing Zoom lessons with so many kids, but the I'm looking at my calendar for next week. It's like it looks like pretty much every other week that I've had. So it's
Yeah.
not like we have any like major performances or anything like that coming up. Or
Yeah.
um,
For me, I think I'm just I think I'm excited, anxious to see if the positivity that I felt in this week, because I felt for the most part kids were pretty positive about the experience, maintains next week. And then if it doesn't, like how can we respond quickly to it, and engage with kids, because they definitely, like, to me, they need us right now. They need music. They need to have that connection. And if we have to force their hand to do it, that's fine. But so I'm excited and anxious to kind of see what next week's going to bring for that.
yeah,
Well, Josh, thanks so much for talking. I mean, we're going to probably pretend we're done now and end up talking for another hour, but I do appreciate you coming in and just giving some insight of what you're experiencing.
yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'll look forward to talking to you for another 20 minutes after we hang up here.
And also, if I ever have anybody cancel, I know I can just call you on the
Right,
last minute. So.
right. Yeah. There we go.